Hello and welcome to the fourth and final main season week of World Race Series 2023. And finally, I'm coming to you from the present. That's right, we're back in 2023. After a crazy few weeks and the past year, time traveling throughout history, we're finally back to the present. We have an action-packed day of racing for you today, and we'll be crowning a champion today at Shanghai International Raceway. And our drivers will, for the first time since 2016, be stepping into proper Formula One cars. Unfortunately, due to budget constraints, we've only been able to get a hold of the 2021 season cars and equipment, and technically, we've only been able to get a hold of a 2021 season track. But it should do wonderfully for our event. But you may be wondering, why is the footage in front of you not Shanghai? Well, here are the 30 full-time drivers who qualified to attempt to start this race. As you can see, there are 30 drivers, but there are only 20 starting positions in this race. So 10 drivers will have to miss the race. Except that's not all. All 12 drivers at the very bottom for the last 2 starting spots in the finale. This is the last chance for many of these drivers like Matzo, Arpeggio, and High Cholesterol to defend their chance at a championship. But China was having some inclement weather post-qualifying, as it is monsoon season, and this last chance qualifier has been moved to Suzuka circuit in Japan. So let's take a peek at the starting grid and how this race turned out, shall we? And first, we have Arpeggio, who honorarily grabs her first ever pole due to qualifying in 19th for the finale. And yes, this race does count toward the season's average finishes, and the win and finishing positions do count towards statistics. So there is a slight advantage to being in this race, however slim. And this is huge for the current championship hunt, as Matzo is qualified to start in second. He will be racing to defend his points lead. If he doesn't qualify in, there will be a slim to none chance that he can secure the chip. So keep an eye on his driving today. He has to be perfect. Starting third is Enderman, the first driver to qualify outside the top 20 in the F1 cars. He's had a rough season, but he may just have a shot to at least compete in the finale. Starting fourth is Domingo. He has also had a rough season and his first ever as a full-timer, but he surely wants to at least go out on a high note. In fifth is the Sheepster. It's not looking good for her, and it looks like she did indeed fall off as the season went on, just like last season. But perhaps she can pass some cars to advance onto the finale. Waffair starts in sixth. She had some speed in Indianapolis. Let's see if that carries over here. She's the only legend driver to not make it in so far. Steph starts in seventh. It was quite surprising how slow she was in an F1 car. Perhaps the ebb and flow of a GT car suits her style much better than the rapidity of the F1 car. High Cholesterol, a driver who has been very fast this year, has not made it into the finale. But could she find some speed today and make her way back in? And the Witch. She's currently last in points right now, but you know she doesn't want to go quietly this year. Starting 10th is Calculator Cam, unfortunately having half of Sunset Motorsports not qualify into the finale. He's been a capable road racer in the past, so I'd keep my eye on him. Behind Cam is Metalhead, our Okanichi winner. Unfortunately, the momentum from that win seems to have dissipated since his crash at Indy. Behind him is another driver who seemingly doesn't know how to run open wheel cars. The Rocket, qualified 30th. Dead last. She could hardly make a single corner in an F1 car, so essentially she's racing for 20th, but she could find her way in, we'll have to see. And that makes up the field for the last chance qualifier. So let's see how this race went and who made it into the last 2 spots. And we're off. Matzo gets a good jump, and he'll have the inside as he overtakes Arpeggio for the lead. Meanwhile, Enderman had a bad start and is down to 5th from 3rd, while Steph makes a move to the inside. Up front, Arpeggio fights back on the outside to retake the lead. Whoa! High Cholesterol with an aggressive pass on the outside of the Witch. And up there, Steph is now up to 5th over Enderman. And we got a car off track. It's Waffair from 4th, who is looking to compete for a spot in the finale. Looks like Legend Racing will not be getting all of their cars into the race. And Matzo has retaken the lead from Arpeggio, and now establishes a gap. Steph with an aggressive pass for 3rd on Domingo. She saw a gap and went for it. Meanwhile, Sheepster is back up to 5th, and High Cholesterol has fallen to 8th. Domingo wants that spot back, but he can't hang on, gives it up. And there's Enderman. He was really looking to be in a position to advance into the finale, but his car is not handling to his liking. And back there, Metalhead goes to try to pass his teammate, High Cholesterol. As you can see, Domingo has a fast car, but he has to work on his racecraft if he wants to make it to the finale. Up front, Steph is trying to pass Arpeggio on the outside. And Arpeggio shuts the door. Steph with the pass in the grass. Arpeggio did not want that pass to happen, as she's right on the elimination bubble now. Matzo is looking in his mirror though and liking what he sees. And he brings his lead to over half a second now. Around this awesome turn, the drivers hug the inside right there. Cam is making a move on the witch. He's up to 6th now, making moves up from 10th. He wants to make the finale. Woofair back there has now passed the Rocket and is now setting up a pass on Metalhead. She's still fast, even though track position has been lost. Matzo's gap now just under a whole second. Steph has to run it hard to catch him. And right there, she closed in big. She's showing exactly how to cut through the field, just like she did at Silverstone last year. On the straights is where Matzo gaps Steph. It seems he can't quite get a perfect turn under wraps though. And Steph has a run. She pulls out. Steph dives. Locks up her brakes. Matzo plays it safe and there's a crossover. Matzo has the exit speed on the inside line. But Steph hangs on the outside. And Arpeggio, she's coming fast behind them in 3rd. Neck and neck to the line. And Steph gets squeezed a little onto the grass. And retaliation. Steph edges ahead, but who's it gonna be? And it's Steph. The finish cameras provide undeniable proof. Steph won that race over Matzo by a couple hundredths of a second. Now that was some desperation to get into the finale. That's people's championships hopes here, folks. There was a lot on the line. And here we see the finishing order for this LCQ. And of course, it's Steph and Matzo who advance into the finale. Steph will start in 19th and Matzo in 20th. She grabs her 2nd career win and Paradise Racing's 2nd of the year, the only team to have multiple victories this season so far. Last year, that title went to Legend Racing. And Steph, she came all the way from 7th to grab a very impressive show for sure. She knows how to pass cars, that is clear. Matzo, meanwhile, once again, loses a race at the last second. He keeps his championship hopes alive though, as he is the points leader right now. Depending how this race goes, it could be the difference between winning and losing the chip. And behind them, everyone else will not be making it into the finale and are effectively eliminated from the championship battle. It's unfortunate, but they were given this second chance, so it's all fair. Arpeggio is on the bubble, just barely missing the show, even after qualifying in 19th. She had the pole and raced hard and defended aggressively, but at the end of the day, was not good enough to make it in. She had a run at the end, but just couldn't get there. She's had a very impressive season though, and I look forward to seeing her potentially drive full-time next year. It hasn't been announced yet, but we'll have to see. Domingo had potential to take advantage of mistakes, but also misses the show. He's had a rough season, but has shown potential to become a very skilled driver. Now our first big shock, Sheepster is out of the championship running. This is big considering she's 13th currently in points and only 110 points behind Matzo. She's really going to have to work on her open wheel racing, as really it is the case with all of these LCQ drivers. Cam ran well today and showed a lot of road racing skill, but unfortunately there was not enough laps for him to fight for a spot in the finale. This could have been his only chance to compete full-time for a championship, so it's sad to see so much potential squandered. The witch showed a lot of speed today. It shows she still has something left in the tank. Unfortunately, it looks like she will be pushed to part-time competition after this season due to the effects of her injury. But hopefully she can still improve next year. Enderman fell hard from 3rd to 8th. That old Corvette was just not on par with the rest of the field. As it is now, it's up in the air if Express Racing will re-up his full-time status for next year. Another big shop is High Cholesterol, who ran so well early in the season. She's currently 10th in points and 100 points behind Matzo. She'll probably still get a good points finish, but there's no chance she'll win the championship this year. And Woofair, it really has seemed like ever since late last year, Legend Racing's weak link has switched from Bandit to Woofair. Woof is often competitive, but there's always something that ruins her race, or she manages to make a mistake. This time, she just overshot the exit of turn 1. She was fast though and probably could have advanced to the finale if she didn't crash. With Night Runner leaving Legend and President retiring from full-time racing, Legend Racing's dominance may be in jeopardy. Behind her is Metalhead and the Rocket, who really don't need to be talked about. They were fast at Okanichi, but it looks like they really have to work on their road course racing before they can realistically compete for a championship. Because while the World Race Series does often run on ovals these days, there's still marginally more road courses on the schedule. And now, we move on to the final race of the 2023 regular season. One of the most wild and absurd Formula One tracks ever designed, Shanghai will surely create a thrilling finale. The race is 3 laps, just like last year's finale at Imola. This race will also be in the morning time, which we very rarely ever do in the World Race Series. The track is a brilliant mix of long rounded corners, sharp curves, and long straights. The perfect Formula One dueling track. The drivers that are truly best at controlling a featherlight race car will rise to the top. So let's move on to the drivers and their qualifying positions. First up, we have Lucky Tito, driving the Sergio Perez Red Bull car and grabbing his first ever career pole. It's weird to say that though, considering his dominance in the last 4 years. He finished 3rd in last season's open wheel finale and only lost his chance because of a rookie mistake, so he really has a chance here today to win and maybe grab another championship, as he went winless and grabbed the chip last year. Starting second is the Bandit, driving Max Verstappen's Red Bull car. The Bandit finished a strong 5th in last year's finale, which was actually surprising because Bandit's been known to run really fast on large oval tracks. So it's kind of weird how Bandit has the expertise in those 2 different types of cars. Though Tito has split from Legend, both teams still share data, funds, and setups. Bandit and Tito running Red Bull cars is a show of their solidarity, however fleeting that may be now, as the teams sort of had a truce, but it's fading a little bit as of right now. But despite that show of solidarity anyways, they become enemies once they hit the track, and Bandit is only 1 position away from their 2nd win of the season. And you know Bandit wants to go for a championship and get every bit of points that they can get. Qualifying in 3rd is Crispy, who really needs a good race after a dismal season so far. They finished in 3rd at Imola last year, so they've shown great pace in open wheel cars. They're not eligible to win the championship as the points are now, but they can finish the season strong. Inc. is qualified in 4th, with Sunset Racing taking both Mercedes race cars. After starting on the pole last year and crashing out, she really wants to have a good race this year. Sunset Motorsports has also announced that she'll be moving to part-time competition in 2024, so this is her last full-time start. Unfortunately, she is also ineligible for the championship, but I'm sure she wants to go out with a bang. And Night Runner is back after not running week 3. The Legend Racing drivers have taken over the Ferrari cars, and Night Runner is the highest qualifying apart from Bandit. He has a good shot to go for a championship today and potentially win the race, though it'll be a tough battle as he is coming up from 15th in points. But it is especially possible considering he surprisingly finished 6th at Imola last year. Qualifying in 6th is Big Ed, who has a considerably healthy open wheel racing resume. He finished 8th at Imola last year and is 14th in points as of now. The Owl is set to make her 2nd start of the year. Comet Motorsports has sort of been off the pace this year and so far hasn't won a race. They're honestly due for a victory at this point. The Owl is also competing for a championship, but she'll have to rise from 17th in points right now. So either a miracle has to happen and she has to run good, or she just has to run good and everybody crashes, which is basically the same thing. Cannon Carl, coming off a good run at Willow Springs, starts in 8th. He's 7th in points right now. The question is, could he make Midnight Motorsports sorry for questioning his potential as a driver? And the President, who can make any car fast, anywhere, starting in 9th. He was fast in qualifying, but missed a shift and dropped. So I'd watch him out there. He's driving the 2nd Legend Racing Ferrari. Like I said before, Legend Racing is officially moving him to part-time competition next year. He is retiring from full-time competition. He just doesn't feel like he has any interest in running in the series, at least full-time anymore, which is actually shocking because he's competing pretty heavily for a championship right now. But nonetheless, watch out for him out there. Just like Inc., just like Cannon Carl, he wants to go out with a bang, along with a lot of other drivers out there. And that's because we're switching back from a 30 to 20 driver championship in 2024 once again, now that time travel is not even a factor. Wavy J amazingly qualifies in 10th, exceeding all expectations this year. He's 9th in points, just from 1 race. So that shows just how good he is. Could we see him win a championship in only his 2nd full-time season? He's really looking to prove himself as he'll be replacing Cannon Carl next year. And 11th is another Midnight Motorsports driver. The team has also picked up the McLaren cars. Deadshot has a shot at the chip right now as he sits 12th in points, but it gets harder to win as we now go outside of the top 10. Deadshot will be moving back to part-time competition next year, so you know he's going to go for it today. Matt Jack, last year's finale winner, starts in 12th. He's shown a lot of promise navigating traffic. We could see another crazy Matt Jack win today, especially considering his win at Nürburgring earlier this season. Unfortunately, he's in a bad spot, 19th for point. Crucifix, another open-wheel specialist, starts in 13th. So far, she's been a little bit overrated in these cars, as she finished 18th at Imola last year. But watch out for her, she could pull something off today. The Hippie is second in points, and has shown a lot of promise in these cars, but is still a little bit off the pace, as all the Wolfpack drivers have been in these cars. But it's especially notable considering it's her first time racing them, so you gotta cut her a little bit of slack. A 14th place starting position is not horrible though. Her goal right now should be to defend hard and not lose track position. If she goes hard, she could win the championship considering Matto's bad qualifying attempt, and the fact that she's tied with him in points at this very moment. Surf Rat showed a lot of potential out there, setting fast lap times in practice. In qualifying though, he was slow, but luckily he won't be the only Paradise Racing driver out there, with Steph entering the finale as well. He also has a shot to win the chip, as he's 6th in points, high on his win last week. Ethan starts in 16th. It's also his first time driving an open wheel car. After a bad week at Lohiak, he sits 18th in points, so he needs a good one today. Big Willie qualified in 17th, a big disappointment considering he won in the Formula 1 event in 2016, and finished 9th at the Imola finale last year. I don't know what's up with him, but he's been a little off this year. Altogether, Wisconsin Motorsports has progressed to nearly become an elite organization this year, even with the loss of Night Runner, but they still need to broaden their drivers' expertise in coaching. There's still a lot to go for them. Starting 18th is Ranich Hand, the last driver to guarantee his starting spot in qualifying alone. Honestly, I was not expecting him to make it in, as it is his first time running open wheel, so props to him. He sits 4th in points, so he really has a shot to bring Desert Racing a championship, if he can make some spots up. Starting 19th is Steph, who, as we saw, raced like a madman up to the front of the LCQ to secure her entry into the finale. Due to her crash at Willow Springs, she mathematically can't win the championship, but she can certainly race for a good points finish today. And then we arrive at Matzo, our current points leader, starting at the very back. Depending on how the race turns out, he could very well still win the championship. Even then, with him advancing through the LCQ, he keeps himself in the running though, especially considering that Hippie qualified in, guaranteeing her at least 10 points, which would break the tie she currently has with Matzo. So way to go Matzo for keeping himself in the hunt. And that will make up our field for the World Race Series 2023 finale at Shanghai. And now, despite the global tensions with China right now, we're gonna have a banging good time and finish out the season today. And now, let's get this finale race started.
And we're ready to go racing. And it's lights out, and away we go. Tito gets a good launch. Big Ed pulls past Night Runner. Ethan with a huge acceleration through the middle. Hippie's now up to 15th, and Ethan threads the needle between them. They're turning 4 wide into turn 1. And Lucky Tito secures the lead over Bandit. The Owls to the inside of Night Runner for 6th. He had a bad start, but the Comet drivers are fast out there. And the Owl beside Night Runner, looking for a gap. She wants maximum points, but Night Runner is fighting for his championship hopes now. She'll be on the inside through here. She dives, but plays it safe. Tanner Carl's looking to pass behind them as well. Lucky Tito still leads, and Night Runner secures the position. A good defense for 6th place. Man, those Red Bull cars are looking just as fast as they are normally in F1. And Lucky Tito was the driver to take advantage of that today. Of all of them in the field, Ben is looking for a good corner to make it happen, or a mistake from Tito, but his car is just that fast. And back here we see Steph and Matzo biding their time, trying to grab points after advancing. Matzo is currently in position to win the championship if he can pass a few cars out here. And Hippie moves out to pass Matt Jack, the finale winner from last year. A little off track, you can tell she's running that car really hard right now. She's had a really impressive drive for stepping into open wheel cars for the first time on a road course. And Bandit currently looking to the outside of Tito. Do they have the speed and the guts is the question though. Night Runner looking to the inside of Big Ed. Cannon Carl with the big block on the President. They fan out and Wavy J wants the outside. Cannon Carl keeps the spot, but Hippie has got to the inside of Wavy J for 10th. She backs out of it. Wavy J shut the door on that. He's going for a championship himself out there. Meanwhile, Lucky Tito approaches the line now to start the second lap here in China. He still leads confidently, but Bennett and Crispy are still very close behind. He's running fast, but so are they. And President to the outside of Cannavaro for 8th place. President has the preferred line here. And he's got it. President's moving up. He's going for a championship, but Cannavaro wants it back. To the outside. Can he hang on? He's using every inch of that race car. He keeps in it, and now he has the inside. President with the exit speed, though. And Hippie back on Wavy J for 10th. She isn't giving up. She'll have the preferred line through here. Oh, she'll spin into the sand trap. She hits the wall. A crushing blow. And into Ranch Hand as she rejoins the race. Pretty much a crushing end to what was a really good day for her. And Surf Rat to the inside of Ranch Hand back there. Both cars involved reporting minor handling issues right now. And he's by. Those handling issues certainly downforce related, probably a fin or ring damaged. And Hippie is now running 16th, just behind Big Willie. It seems the effects of damage is much less for her. She pulls out to pass, but can't risk it. Oh, she slams into the back of Willie. I think something fell off of her car, probably a piece of the front wing. I don't know if the braking issues were related to the earlier damage, but if it wasn't bad before, it will be now. Currently reporting major handling and performance issues, and suspension issues. Up front, Lucky Tito leads the field onto the third and final lap here this morning. And it's crazy, his gap is actually lengthening. And Ranch Hand on his way to the box. Apparently, his car's become undrivable through the less sharp corners and is much slower on the straights than the rest of the field. At this point, his championship hopes have been completely derailed. He had a shot if he could have driven like a madman, but all that is gone now. But still, he's had an impressive season, and he's going to try to get as many points as he can today. We got a car off track. It's Hippie. And into the wall. Oh, not again. She's now down to 19th. If we had another lap, she'd probably go to the box. A real shame. She'd been doing so well this season, too. Meanwhile, we'll go through the field as we see Bandit in second, trying to grab their second win of the year. And Crispy there in third, trying to get some silver lining on this terrible season they've had so far. They finished second at Imola last year, so the performances have been really impressive. Crispy is truly one of our very best road racers. And Ink behind her is finally putting together a full race. No crashes, or aggression, or mistakes. Just good, clean driving. She's unfortunately going to part-time next year, but this may be a campaign for full-time in 2025. We'll have to see. And Big Ed in fifth. He's currently our championship points leader as it sits now, believe it or not. He's been one of the most consistent drivers all year and really flying under the radar. Behind him is Night Runner, and Ed looks in the mirror. He sees him. Night Runner to the outside. He inches by the quarter panel. Night Runner wants to go for a championship. As Lucky Tito rounds the final corner, Night Runner passes Big Ed for 5th. And it's Lucky Tito, finally winning a race after going winless in his championship season. Woo! All right, so before we take a look at who won this championship, let's see the finishing order. And of course, Lucky Tito grabs the 4th victory of his career and his first in a traditional race. He breaks through to finally win after going winless in his championship season last year. The question is, was this enough for him to grab the championship? The Bandit absolutely crushes the field. Tito was too fast, but they held their own up at the front. The same can be said for Crispy, finally a good finish this year after really being a no-show at both Nürburgring and Indianapolis. Ink, in her last attempt at a championship, finishes 4th. Not a bad showing, and she definitely is going out with a bang. And Night Runner with a strong run. He had a bad start, but passed both Comet drivers as the race went on to finish strong. He has a great bid for the championship. The same can be said for Big Ed and the Owl, who've shown great speed in open wheel cars. And the President driving up to 8th, passing all of the Midnight Motorsports drivers. Great showing in his last race as a full-time driver. Just like Ink, he's going out with a bang. It'll be sad to see him retire. He's given us so many great moments through the years. Wavy J had a great showing, grabbing his third top 10 of his career and displaying his skill for the world to see. Matt Jack having a bit of an underwhelming day considering he won the finale last year, but still, he grabs the top 10, so it's not completely a disaster. Cannon Carl also dropping from a strong start to outside the top 10. He's been a great driver the past 3 years, but perhaps the pressure is getting to him, as he was bested by all of his teammates except Deadshot. And speaking of Deadshot, he's had a decent first full-time season this year, but you have to remember he's never even driven an open wheel car until today. Crucifix, with her second best finish all year. Not a great finish, but better than her 18th place finish at Imola last year. Ethan, in his first open wheel race, has a decent showing. He unfortunately ran badly at Lohiak, so he couldn't really go for a championship here. Luckily, he'll be running full-time next year, so he can improve on his skills. And Big Willie, who was fast but had an underwhelming day. He's been off this year, but hopefully Night Runner going back to Wisconsin Motorsports allows the team to get its mojo back. That said, Big Willie was still the highest finishing WIM driver in this finale. Steph advanced many positions and got as many points as she could on the day. The same can be said for Surfrat and Matzo. Matzo has never been great in open wheel, but he's allowed himself to hopefully get enough points to secure the championship. And it's Surfrat's first time in an open wheel car, so not a bad showing at all. The hippie finishes 19th after that bad spin in contact with Ranch Hand and Big Willie. Not a bad show considering she drove up to 10th, but results won't show that. And besides, it's also her first ever open wheel race, at least on a road course. Meanwhile, Ranch Hand, who was the real victim, had major damage that had him go into the pits on lap 2. Unfortunate end to his finale week. And here we have the current all-time wins list, now currently updated. Night Runner, of course, keeps top spot. It'll take a long time for that to be topped, but now Lucky Tito shoots up to second and joins the coveted 4-win club. And Matt Jack now joins the list with his win this year for 3 wins. And now for Lucky Tito's race win victory burnout. I'm sure there's many more to come, but you gotta celebrate every single win like it's your last. You never know when it'll come. And now, to see who's won the championship for World Race Series 2023. And it's a tie for the top spot. Matzo, Big Ed, and Night Runner, all finishing out the season with 400 points. To break the tie, we have to look at wins, but since all of these drivers are winless, we look at the average finish. And here it is. Night Runner is your 2023 World Race Series champion. It's been a long time coming after being part of the championship teams in 2014 and 2015, grabbing 6 wins and dominating in the stop motion era. So far, he's had mixed success in the eras that have followed and only grabbed 2 wins since then. But now he's up again with this championship. The question is, can he win at Atlanta or next year following his championship like Lucky Tito did this year? Matzo takes second spot with a 7.25 average finish. It would have been a 9th place average without a second place in the LCQ. So like I said, it does have some advantage, however slim. That allows him to pass up Big Ed for second. Big Ed really flew under the radar, but him and President have been the most consistent all year. He's been really fast. Maybe some of that can be contributed to his regained youth, but most of it I think comes from inner skill. Night Runner, Matzo, and Big Ed have had great improvements on last year. Night Runner was 4th in standings, Matzo was 8th, and Big Ed was 12th, so great improvements there. Night Runner also grabs a championship for Legend Racing before splitting. It makes Legend look like geniuses for acquiring him. Now he heads back to Wisconsin Motorsports, but he'll be running one final race for the team at Atlanta before the year is out. And now for the full standings. Lucky Tito grabs 4th spot, 10 points away from claiming another championship. And he would have been able to because he has a win, and none of those with 400 points do. The President is winless, but he has the best average finish of any driver this year at 4.67. That's astounding because he's very close to winning the chip in his last year, a great turn up from 11th last year. Wavy J and Hippie also tie for 390 points. Wavy J had an amazing season. Hopefully he doesn't have a sophomore slump next year. Cannon Carl finishes 8th. Not bad at all. He's also slightly up from 9th last year. He certainly showed he can drive and that he can compete before going to part-time in 2024. Bandit is down from 5th to 9th, but still had a great season. Funnily enough, they're the highest scoring driver with a win, apart from Tito. Arpeggio wins out amongst drivers with 350 points. A good first full-time season in the points era. The Owl down big from a 2nd place finish last year, but only ran 2 races this year, so it's not quite the same. Deadshot with a great first full-time season, but he wants to move back to part-time next year. The same can be said for Ranchan, but as of now, Desert Racing is unsure of who will be their full-time driver next year. Surfrat had a great first full-time season in the points era. Matt Jack fell hard from second in the points, but at least he grabbed a win and finished strong. He's down from a 7th place finish last year. The Rocket had a great season apart from the finale and finishes 16th. Crucifix is up from a 19th place finish last year. Crispy down from a 3rd place points finish last year. This finale race was a redeemer, but still not a great season altogether. Hopefully they can come up next year. A lot of it really comes from finishing poorly at Nürburgring and not running week 2 at all. Ethan in 21st and Sheepster in 22nd, way down from a 16th place points finish last year. She just fell off hard like she did last year, and Ethan never really made too many strides this year except 11th at Okanichi. Big Willie down big time from 10th last year. He was heavily off this year, but he'll be back again next year to run for a championship. Ig finishes 24th this season. She just ran poorly at Willow Springs, but at least she's improved her racecraft and she's run mistake-free this year. I look forward to seeing her run part-time next year. Wolfair had a disappointing season. She finishes 25th and is down from 14th last year. The worst Legend Racing driver this season. She's been fast and nearly had a chance to fight for the victory at Indy, but she has to clean up her act and find the results. If she doesn't, I could see her being axed for Inc, Cam, or Sheepster potentially. Domingo had a rough first full-time season, but he'll run full-time next year for BTR and continue coaching Barebone, so he showed some potential this year. Steph had a bad turnout, but grabbed her 2nd win in the LCQ, so not a bad season overall, recovering to grab as many points as she could. Catwetter Cam and Enderman also had disappointing seasons, and Cam will be moved to part-time next year. But they both showed they could run with the big guys. They really just had bad luck and didn't qualify into the finale. It's still up in the air whether Enderman will run full-time next year. Express Racing is a little dodgy with their funds. And then there's the effervescent witch. She's definitely a dead horse getting beat. She still has skill and drive within her, but it's fading fast. I think Comet will want to keep her around in case she recovers over time, but she won't be taking up a full-time spot next year at least. And now, let's take a look at the standings with the part-timers added in. And there they are in blue. And you see Bobber making a championship run that isn't half bad at all, mostly from an excellent career best finish of 4th at Willow Springs. If she finished well at Okanichi and didn't crash, she could be well in the mix for the championship, honestly. Shawarma had a very impressive season, mirroring that of Miss Shortcut last year. She kind of fell off at Indy, but still grabbed 2 top 10s. Unfortunately, she is leaning toward leaving out Motorsports and the World Race Series to run in the Catholic Racing League in Ohio. Kevin, with his big win, finishes 27th, not bad. Other notables include Paco Tacos, Barrett, Lair Bear, HB, and the Downtown Dominator, outclassing several full-time drivers. Of course, it doesn't mean that much since the time travel element made it so a lot of the drivers couldn't compete in every race, so it's really up to your interpretation. In fact, no driver ran every single race this year. Each driver had at least one time period they did not get transported to. So now before we go on to the bonus stats, let's see Night Runner's championship victory burnout. It's been a while since he's done this. The last time was in 2021 after his team lost the championship, but won the finale at Hockenheim. And the last time he did it for an actual race victory was all the way back in Talladega in 2020. And now for the top 10s this season. Nobody was able to get a top 10 in every race because no drivers ran every race this year, and only one driver drove full races this season, that being Matzo, who ran 3 points bang races and advanced from the LCQ. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to grab 4 top 10s because of his bad finish at Shanghai. Now for the bonus points. Of course, Kevin grabs the most with that big win at Lohiak. All the Lohiak guys pretty close behind him, Pepe Psycho, Action Star, but of course President and Matzo grabbed a healthy dose of bonus points themselves. Altogether, 1,060 bonus points were given out this year between all drivers, much more than last year. Now onto laps led, and this list for the second year in a row is led by Matzo, who led 13 last year at Eldora. It's usually dirt short tracks that a driver can rack up laps easily, and that's where Matzo is strongest, leading 5 this year. A couple drivers grabbed 3 laps led, and a couple like Metalhead Steph and Matchak only needed 1, the most important lap, to grab a win. And now we have our pole awards. As of the last 2 years, it's been pretty bad luck to start on pole, except for Catalunya last year and Shanghai this year. It should not be understated, though, the working dedication each of these drivers put in to grab the pole position at each of these tracks, with the exception of Arpeggi, of course, who grabbed an honorary pole position. Now we move on to several rumored and announced drivers moving from part-time to full-time next year. Big one, of course, is the president, who's been a full-time competitor since 2015. He's been extremely competitive through pretty much all of it. And then there's the witch, to no surprise, Cannon Carl, which is an unfortunate development. He's performed well, but he's just been a lackluster driver that doesn't really do much. Midnight Motorsports wants someone more aggressive like Matt Jack and Wavy J. Apparently, he's also been a little toxic behind the scenes, at odds with his on-track demeanor. Steph, Ranchan, and Metalhead are rumored to be considering stepping down to make way for their teammates in full-time competition. For example, Bobber, Surfrat, Crucifix, and I Cholesterol. Deadshot, of course, not interested in running full-time. Same can be said for Hippie, despite her great performances this year. Enderman is rumored as well, and Ink, of course, after a largely lackluster last 2 years. And now, for our Rookie of the Year, it's Enderman, driving full-time for Express Racing. And this comes after tough competition from Schwarmer and Kevin, who outdid him tremendously in the points. Despite only grabbing 80 points this year, his full-time status is a commitment that guarantees preference in the Rookie of the Year conversation. Much like each of the DJ, he was full-time in his very first start and made 3 starts this year over the 2 and 1 made by Schwarmer and Kevin. That requires work and dedication, so he's been given Rookie of the Year over them. It was a hard choice, but it is a result that is well deserved. And beyond that, we don't know where he'll finish at Atlanta later in the year, which probably will bring up his stats even more. And now, we look forward to next year. A couple big team changes happening. Night Runner, as it has been talked about before, will be switching back to his family team, Wisconsin Motorsports, next year. But he's been able to grab a championship for Legend, something he may not have been able to do with WIM prepared equipment. And he will run Atlanta for Legend, one last ride with his friends. And the big news, Matt Jack has announced he'll be leaving Midnight Motorsports for Big Time Racing. This is the startup team headed by Matt Jack and Domingo that is jointly funded by Midnight Motorsports. So he's basically moving to his own team, his own startup. So apparently Matt Jack has just jumped ship and will be separating the two entities, as in Big Time Racing will be largely unrelated to Midnight Motorsports, though I do bet they will share at least the driver development connection. But beyond that, they'll be completely separate. He must have been growing tired of Midnight Motorsports. According to what little details he's given, it has to do with their talent acquisition and how they treat their wide array of drivers. MDT is definitely quantity over quality, and maybe Matt Jack wants to do things his own way. He's been their franchise driver and their championship guy for the past 2 years, so I don't know what Midnight Motorsports is going to do now that they've shunned Cannon Carl to part-time, and there's no word on what Deadshot is going to do next year. He may move to BTR since he's a good friend of Matt Jack. Arpeggio, meanwhile, will move back to Comet Motorsports next year, as she only ran with Paradise Racing this year because of Comet's roster being full. As of right now, it's looking like Paradise will have only one full-time driver in 2024. And then we have Pepe Psycho, who is in talks to run GC's number 17 Mustang at Atlanta on the road to the dream. She's been feeling exhausted from her personal endeavors and opted not to run any regular season races this year. So as of right now, Pepe Psycho will drive her car for downtown racing. He's also been building up a relationship with them, so he may switch entirely to them from Midnight Motorsports, along with the whole controversy with Midnight. And maybe he'll run full-time for them next year. Only time will tell. It's crazy. It seems like Midnight Motorsports every single year is involved in some kind of controversy. Now with the driver acquisition and Matt Jack leaving them, and how they treat Cannon Carl and other drivers, and then last year it was the drug controversy. It seems to never end with this team. They're fairly successful, and they made a lot of good starts and run a pretty tight ship and a pretty good program, but it seems like they just can't do right for whatever reason. As for the 2024 season, it'll be a regular full race schedule, the same as this, reduced from 2022, but without the time travel. On that topic though, we've learned from Night Runner Jr., several scientists, and some of our smarter drivers such as Matt Jack, how to control and harness the time travel energy, and we may use it to travel into the past and future seasons, or potentially the future. So look out for that. The possibilities are literally endless. And with that, the World Race Series 2023 regular season is concluded. We'll see you for our fun exhibition race at Atlanta Motor Speedway and NASCAR's Generation 7 race cars in late July. Can't wait to see you there. So until next time, this is Sailor Marvov signing off.